We have 3 more tapes to cover in this final installment of the live-action Disney sing-along songs retrospective. You know, it sounds kind of silly when I say it out loud. As I rewatched these tapes in chronological order, I realized that they did evolve over time. Disneyland Fun and the 12 Days of Christmas were pretty much just extended musical montages, with no real semblance of plot or anything. The 3 Mickey's Fun Song tapes had a more overarching theme, a few bits of dialogue, plus professional kid performers. The final 3 we're looking at take this even further, adding a narrative and extended dialogue. This means that there are generally less songs to make room for the plot. To put this in perspective, Disneyland Fun had 12 songs, but the final Animal Kingdom tape only had 9. Now, Disney has been cranking out a lot of live-action remakes of their animated films recently, but it's easy to forget that this trend goes back to at least 1996, with the Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians. And why not use a sing-along tape to promote the upcoming film? The tape, entitled Pongo and Perdita, is something of an oddball compared to the others. For one thing, a Dalmatian-based sing-along tape seemed like an odd idea since the remake had no songs, and the original movie only had 3, 2 of which ran under a minute. Unless we're counting the dogs, no Disney characters appear in this tape, and weirdest of all, the original VHS release had no lyrics on screen. No following the traditional bouncing Mickey head this time. Someone must have realized how strange this was, since later prints did add lyrics. The video revolves around an eccentric woman and her 7 Dalmatians. There was no way they were going to get all 101 in this, let's not kid ourselves. The woman is played by Bren McKinley, who I can't really find too much information on. Her character is never named on screen, nor is the name listed in the credits. Internet Movie Database refers to her only as Dalmatian Mom. Now that's a tiny bit of a mouthful, so for the sake of this review, I'll call her Dog Mom. Dog Mom loves her dogs. Her Dalmatian obsession stretches past her canines and through her extravagantly decorated house, complete with a puppy flag. I kinda hate to say it, but I think the set design is probably the best part of this tape. After a waking up montage set to Zippity-Doo-Dah, a quick round of Following the Leader, and a brief appearance by the Canine Crunchies jingle, we have heard the last of the tape's Disney songs. The rest are mostly traditional public domain songs again. Dog Mom announces that it's the day of the big Bow Wow Ball, which appears to be a party that she throws for local kids and their dogs. While she gets ready, she turns the TV on to an animal channel, and a lengthy montage of dog tricks is shown with a version of Do Your Ears Hang Low. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs, but at this point the tape was starting to get old. I should mention that I watched the tape for the first time very recently, so I don't have any nostalgia glasses on this time. The guests soon arrive, and there is much singing and dancing. Aside from some goofy shots of Pongo as a DJ, there's not a lot to report on until one of the kids gets hit in the head with a baseball, complete with the sound effects straight out of America's Funniest Home Videos.
Hey look, a baseball! Throw it over here!
Oh, Bob Saget, you make real people getting injured even funnier. Before we can worry too much about the small child having a concussion, we delve into the kid's subconscious to find he's dreaming about baseball. The kids are more interested in forming a kick line and singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game than participating in America's favorite pastime. The kid is revived a moment later, and since they didn't seem to think that him being knocked unconscious was that big a deal, I won't either. During a game of hide and seek, one of the little puppies, Jewel, turns up missing. Everyone is mildly concerned by this, but Dog Mom instructs Pongo and Perdita to enact the Twilight Bark to inform the nearby farm animals to be alert. A helpful duck finds Jewel contentedly grazing in a flower bed a moment later. Oh, look at the puppy! If you haven't guessed, this tape runs solely on the power of cuteness. Saying puppies are cute is like saying water is wet. Like I said, I love dogs, but it wasn't quite enough for me. Now yes, I'm viewing this as an adult here, but I have a nagging feeling that I wouldn't have liked this tape that much as a kid either. It just felt very generic. The other Disney tapes have a certain spark to them to make them stand out. This one almost felt like a cheap imitation. By this point, the Disney sing-alongs had spawned several imitators from other companies, and even those ones felt more genuine than this one. That being said, based on the various internet comments I found on this tape, plenty of people did enjoy this one as youngsters. While I can't include myself in that group, I did make a genuinely fond retrospective on the adventures of Timmy the Tooth, so I am in no position to judge people based on what they remember happily from their childhood. Still, unless you're a huge dog lover, I can't really recommend this tape too strongly. And that's coming from a huge dog lover. The next tape is quite special to me, however. I want to take a moment to backtrack to Disneyland Fun once more. Remember how I mentioned that the Grim Grinning Ghost sequence first scared me before eventually growing on me? Well, one part I didn't talk about was how there was a brief bit of footage of the Haunted Mansion's interiors. It didn't show too much, but it was a tantalizing sampling of what lurked in that spooky house. Remember, this was before the internet made it easier to get pictures and footage of theme park attractions. I was pretty much in the dark about what was inside the mansion. In 1997, when I had just turned 7 years old, we went to Walt Disney World for the first time during its Remember the Magic celebration, Pink Cake Castle and all. I finally got to ride the Haunted Mansion, and it terrified me, all the way from hearing the howling wolf outside to the graveyard jamboree at the end. Of special note was the stretching room pre-show and the attic, which originally had a creepier bride and some gruesome groomsmen, who popped out at you while shrieking. Like the sing-along tape segment, despite my initial fear, the mansion quickly became my favorite attraction of the Disney parks, and still is. Moving ahead to 1998, while browsing the Disney catalog, remember that coming in the mail? Good times. I saw an ad for a new sing-along tape that took place entirely in the Haunted Mansion. I was absolutely pumped and begged my parents for it. Well, they ordered it for me, and I remember excitedly waiting for it to arrive. With that in mind, let's take a look at Happy Haunting, Party at Disneyland. We open with an invitation to Mickey's Halloween Party introduced by the magic mirror from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. While the movie version was a creepy, somewhat dour being who just told it like it was, this version is based on how the character appeared on the old Walt Disney Presents show. There, he was played by character actor Hans Conried, who also played Disney's Captain Hook. In this tape, he's portrayed by Corey Burton, who's done a huge amount of voice work, and is even the current voice of Hook. His imitation of Conried's voice is dead on. Dead. Because ghosts. Anyway, at New Orleans Square in Disneyland, Mickey and Minnie usher the kids into the iconic Haunted Mansion. And inside, it's a soundstage. Okay, obviously, filming dance sequences, or just about anything for that matter in the attraction itself, was going to be next to impossible. I know this now, but needless to say, young me was initially a little disappointed at this revelation. The Disney characters, kids, and generic Halloween creatures dance around in the faux ballroom to a song based on the Worms Crawl In, Worms Crawl Out Hearst song. Suddenly, the booming voice of the ghost host, the magic mirror, fills the room as their spectral party planner. He tells the kids to find pumpkins, so the only 3 kids to actually do anything in this video, I'm assuming they're siblings, who knows, head up the stairs to seek out the desired vegetables. The main 3 kids are named Zach, Sally, and Sam. Sally and Sam's actors haven't done too much after this, but Zach's actor, Tyler Hoechlin, did I pronounce that right? Probably not, had lengthy stints on Seventh Heaven and Teen Wolf, not to mention is now Superman in the Arrowverse. Wandering a set that kind of resembles the mansion's corridors, they find a crystal ball. Don't get too excited, I'm pretty sure Madame Leota considered herself too good for this one. Instead, the ball is full of singing pumpkins, accompanied by little stock sounds that I swear I heard all the time when playing Kid Pix. Now that the kids have magically found their pumpkins, it's time to help everyone decorate. This is accompanied by a montage set to Grim Grinning Ghosts. Now, it would be an absolute travesty if they didn't include the mansion's theme song, but this version seems generally off-key, and some of the lyrics have been altered for no real reason. The saving grace, though, is all the classic Disney clips they added to it. Whoever was in charge of editing this one did a great job, since there are some genuinely obscure shorts and films sampled here, a few of which even this Super Disney dork had trouble identifying. Next up, we have a novelty gross-out song with Goofy called Chicken Lips and Lizard Hips, about Goofy's favorite meal. I hope we never subjected Max to this stuff, that kid's got enough parental issues as it is. The song doesn't have much to do with Halloween, but Bill Farmer does a good job singing at least. Ghost Story Time is next, and what better than The Legend of Sleepy Hollow? The classic Headless Horseman song is played, set to clips from the movie. However, they don't use the Bing Crosby version for some reason, and instead have an unidentified vocalist covering it. While he doesn't do a terrible job, I'm not sure why they didn't just use the original one. Now it's time to find costumes. A little odd that no one but Mickey and company seem to be dressed for Halloween, come to think of it. The peasants with no names are left to fend for themselves, but Zach, Sally, and Sam are off on another adventure. The main 3 kids find different costumes, along with different songs accompanying their discoveries. Sally gets a witch costume set to 5 Little Witches, based on the traditional 10 Little Indians song. Zach gets a skeleton costume with What Else But the now legendary Spooky Scary Skeleton song, and Sam gets a wizard's outfit set to the original Casting My Spell song. Now that they've all gotten their costumes, the kids happily return to the ballroom to find it's empty. The others have all left them to go trick-or-treating. Harsh. I guess that apparently comes with the territory of being a named character who actually gets to do stuff. Luckily, Merlin from the Sword and Stone appears to transport them all to Toontown with the others. It's time for another song, the upbeat Trick-or-Treat. Now, there was a much-loved Donald Duck short called Trick-or-Treat from 1952 that features a song of the same name, and this would be the perfect place to use that song. But instead, we have an original song in its place. Talk about a missed opportunity. Despite this, Toontown footage is always fun. It's a little sad to see no Roger Rabbit around, however. Guess we'll have to chalk this one up to copyright issues. Then it's back to the mansion where little Sam is able to deduce the true identity of the mysterious ghost host. It's Master Gracie! No, it's Hatchet Man! No, just kidding. We all know from before it's the magic mirror. But it should have been Master Gracie. Anyway, then they all do the Monster Mash, the end. So, despite my snarky comments, I can't help but enjoy this tape. It definitely helps that I watched it a lot as a kid. But at the same time, like a lot of tapes featured in this retrospective, it was cheesy in all the best possible ways. The final live-action sing-along tape came out in 1999, Flik's musical adventure in Disney's Animal Kingdom. In terms of promotions, they were really killing two birds with one stone. They were promoting both the newly opened Animal Kingdom park at Walt Disney World and A Bug's Life, which was set for VHS release that year, with multiple clamshell cases for die-hard collectors. The tape's title pretty much sums it all up. Flik the ant from A Bug's Life is our host, and leads us all on a safari around the Animal Kingdom. After the sun rises on the park, with what else but the Circle of Life playing, we meet Flik in his anthole, and shortly after, the cast of kids that we're journeying with. All of them are assigned very basic personality traits at the beginning, but honestly, given the tape's half-hour running time, with most of it being dedicated to songs and animal facts, I almost wonder why the writers bothered, since we don't really get to see that much of the kids at all. One of the kids, Amy, suggests that everyone try to photograph the most dangerous animal they can find. I think we all know where this is going, so I'll let the scary door sum it up.
I have combined the DNA of the world's most evil animals to make the most evil creature of them all.
It turns out it's man.
Anyway, they all head out to the Africa section of the park, starting in the Harambe village area. I knew there was a song here, and while I couldn't remember it offhand before I watched it, when I heard the opening notes, it just all came back to me. I don't know if it's a particularly great song, but it was certainly memorable enough. The most interesting part of the tape actually comes pretty early on. We get some nice footage of the March of the Artimals, a surreal parade featuring some bizarre, colorful costumes. The parade was not a major hit with guests and was discontinued after a year. It's still nice to see the footage, but I wish they had a song to go with it. In terms of songs, this tape selection is actually rather skimpy. One of the biggest draws of Animal Kingdom is the Kilimanjaro Safaris, where the guests can board a vehicle and safely drive around an African enclosure, getting close up with the animals. In fact, there's this elephant named Big Red who just had a baby and... sorry, I couldn't resist. That one's for the fellow Disney dorks out there. Obviously, they couldn't let a flagship attraction not get represented, so there's a fine amount of safari footage to be seen, with a safari song to boot. Next up is Pangani Forest Exploration Trail, now known as the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. The kids come across a trio of dancing orangutans and dance to I Wanna Be Like You. The ape costumes here were used in the park's Journey into the Jungle Book show. The show only lasted a year before being replaced by Tarzan Rocks! You have to say it excitedly, since there's an exclamation mark in the title. And as I said before, extinct attraction footage is always a major draw for me. Now, who doesn't love babies? Our next song is a montage of baby humans and animals set to a slightly annoying arrangement of You Must Have Been a Beautiful Baby. Like in the previous Haunted Mansion video, the high point for me is their use of obscure Disney cartoons, like Lambert the Sheepish Lion and Don's Fountain of Youth. Heading over to Dino Land, USA, what do you think is the best song about dinosaurs they could choose? If you guessed Cold-Blooded Guy as performed by Sherman Hemsley from the Jim Henson Dinosaurs Big Songs album, you'd be right. Unfortunately, they just sing Walk the Dinosaur instead. But we do get some nice footage of the Countdown to Extinction attraction, later simply renamed Dinosaur. In the most tongue-in-cheek portion of the tape, Flik sings a parody of It's a Small World called It's a Bug World. This was my personal favorite part of the tape as a kid, and while it doesn't quite hold up as well today, it still makes me smile. We're off to the Asia section next, with a variation on the Siamese cat song from Lady and the Tramp playing. The new lyrics, however, are quite clunky, and the song falls really flat. A group shot is taken of everyone, which of course shows the most dangerous animal, and the most dangerous game for that matter, human beings.
Man is in the forest. Let's dig out.
Flik gets up on his tiny soapbox and explains/lectures us on the devastating impact humans have had on our spaceship Earth. And he's right, hard as is his stomach. I mean, no one likes being informed that their species is systematically destroying the planet, but it's not something that should be ignored. Animal Kingdom, like Epcot before it, is a park with a message, one of conservation. And yes, between being chased by dinosaurs in a time machine and visiting Pandora, one might forget that aspect, but the bitter pill must be swallowed. Following the slightly sobering speech, gotta love alliterations, the cast of Festival Lion King perform He Lives in You and an encore of The Circle of Life. While this was another fun tape from my childhood, I think it started to lose track of the sing-along aspect, opting to focus more on skits where Flik taught animal facts. It seemed half sing-along, half science lesson at times. Not that I don't like learning about animals, but it did feel a little weird to wonder when people are going to start singing again several times throughout the tape. After Animal Kingdom, 6 more tapes were released. 3 were to promote upcoming movies, The Tigger Movie, Brother Bear, and Home on the Range. And 3 were princess-themed, since, let's be real, the princess have always been an in kind of thing. The final volume was released in 2006, ending the series' 20-year run. If I had to guess why the series stopped selling, I'd have to restate what I said at the beginning of this retrospective. We're in the age of DVDs, Blu-rays, streaming services, and YouTube. It's easier to find the songs you're looking for, and the sing-along series was ultimately rendered obsolete. Despite this, there are still fans out there. Myself included, otherwise, let's face it, I wouldn't have made this. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of us grew up with these tapes. While they did change over time, just try comparing Disneyland fun to Flik's musical adventures, see what I mean, at their core, they were the cheesiest kind of fun. If you want just a little more sing-along goodness, as I mentioned, Tammy Tuckey of the Tiara Talk Show has done interviews with various cast members. Relevant to this video in particular, she's interviewed the kid cast of Flik's musical adventure, and Wally Wingert, who voiced Flik for the video as well. Both are a good listen, and as always, I will link to them in the description. In the end, the sing-along tapes will always be a product of their time. Just as video killed the radio star, YouTube killed the sing-along tapes. But you know what? That's okay, because we've got 20 years of solid material. So when you watch the fireworks over Disneyland, when you walk right down the middle of Main Street USA, or when you wake up to nightmares of Maleficent and other villains stalking around, think of that bouncing ball with the Mickey Mouse ears and the memories it evokes.